Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have the high-end master model Fang Tiger by Koropukia. Released in August of 2021, this is the second Zoid from the Zoids Wild series to receive the high-end master model treatment. And if you didn't know, I have not watched the Zoid Wild series, and I don't plan to. However, that doesn't mean I hate the Zoid designs. So let's get this review started. And like always, beginning with the box. What an amazing box art. We got the Fang Tiger being ridden by LiQWYD, and I only know his name because of the wiki. And it looks like the Fang Tiger is already messing up a group of Gill Raptors. I definitely look forward to an HMM Gill Raptor. And judging from the prototype as well as the release Rev Raptor, a kit that I did review on, I'm pretty hyped. Back to the box. Since this kit is from the Zoids Wild series, it is 1/35th scale, but don't worry too much about the scaling, it'll match up with the other HMM Zoids. On the side of the box, we can see some panels highlighting the eyes, which will serve a major function later on, along with some extra panels with these yellow parts that go in the holes. I'm not sure what they're really for. The pilot I already forgot the name of, with his two unique heads, and the Zoid core. On the other side of the box, we see the purpose of it highlighting the eyes, because of this cool effect part. Additionally, we see the full kit in display and yeah, we got that creepy skeleton inner frame again. Still pretty cool. And lastly, we have some panels, showing some extras that we will be looking at later on. Now, let's take a look at the kit. And here's the kit, fully assembled, straight build, no panel lining or stickers used. Well, there's no real stickers here, just water slides. And a very small batch of them. As for the build of the Fang Tiger, it was super easy, even for Zoid standard. Difficulties along the lines of a master grade gun plug kit. Pretty much if you built the LiQWYD, the inner frame's almost identical, with only the armor pieces to really separate it. And speaking of inner frames, yeah, just like the LiQWYD, it's got this creepy skeleton frame. It's a very nice, iconic, traditional look for Wild series Zoids, giving it a very bioorganic appearance, while also, having mechanical parts exposed. Just enough to remind you that it's still a giant robot. And aside from the fearsome appearance, there's a nice amount of detail in the inner frame. Also, if you have built the high-end master model LiQWYD, the inner frame's nearly identical, with the only glaring difference the longer canines, as well as different colored sets of teeth and claws, gold being for the LiQWYD and silver for the Fang Tiger. And pretty much being the exact same build as the LiQWYD, you are given the same short canine that the LiQWYD has. Also, the chest cavity holding the Zoid core is much different in design, as well as having a differently shaped armor for the chest. Otherwise, pretty much the same exact build, just with some parts differently colored. Too bad the inner frame is mostly grays and silvers. A good paint job would definitely make it pop. So if you like the inner frame of the LiQWYD, you shouldn't have an issue with this. However, if that doesn't appeal to you, the additional armor definitely sets it apart, while drastically changing the appearance of the kit. Like the LiQWYD, much of the inner frame is still poking out, and that's really good, because it would be such a shame if all that was covered up. And needless to say, the Fang Tiger looks pretty good with all the armor on. I just want to point out I will paint this kit one day, that's why I didn't panel line it, but there is a good amount of panel lining opportunities on the armor parts, and that would definitely add some detail and break up the yellow. And I gotta say, this kit definitely needs it. The color is pretty bland, we just got grays and silvers for the inner frame, and yellows for the armor, with a little bit of some clear blue pieces poking out. Even with a boring color palette, the overall silhouette of the Fang Tiger definitely isn't. There's a lot of textures going on here, and a good amount of surface level detail. Overall appearance, the Fang Tiger is a really cool looking Zoid. It looks good as a straight build, and if you panel line it or paint it, it'll look even better. Before I move on to articulations though, I just want to point out that this kit has a lot of loose parts. Firstly, the head armor comes off very easily, and these stupid fin vent things fall off all the time. And unlike the head armor, it's annoying to put these back on. Next issue, we have this weapon unit, which is very loose on the joint. I've tried to reassemble it several times, still loose. Lastly, since it shares the inner frame of the LiQWYD, the hips come off quite easily, so yeah, just keep that in mind. Those were the most noticeable and reoccurring issues I kept running into this kit. Just letting you know, let's move on. Okay, starting with the head. The bottom jaw could open up that wide, and the top part of the head can also open up this wide. Crazy range of motion for the mouth. And located in the mouth, what I can assume to be a weapon of some sort is able to move up and down. And yeah, there goes that faceplate again. The design of implementing a weapon inside the mouth of these things are always interesting to me. The head could easily do a full 360. And the head is able to tilt up this far and look down this much. Additionally, the base of the neck can also move up and down. Side to side head movement is this much. Pretty good. From a top down view, you can see that the joint at the base of the neck allows the side to side movement. In addition to that, if you remove the neck, you can see the side to side movement is also involving a joint on the base of the skull. as well as part of the vertebra in the center of the neck. Quite a good amount of range of motion in the neck itself. Now moving on to the body, like almost all Zoids, the Zoid core sits right in its chest, and a pretty good looking Zoid core I might add. It sits within the chest cavity right over here. It's fairly secure when in there, but it's also pretty easy to remove. Now for torso movement, we have this much of a back extension and an ab crunch. And for side to side movement, gotta move this out of the way, we have this much of a side bend. And the range of motion here is pretty good. The connection joint on the hip, as well as the one on the upper torso, give it a really good range of motion. I mean, look at that, that's a lot of side to side movement right there. And because of all this movement, the hips are getting loose and they're about to fall off. Next up we got the forelimbs. The arm can internally and externally rotate this much. Full 360 of the forelimb. We have this much of a range for abduction and adduction. And I just removed the forelimb just to make this part easier. And located on top of the shoulders, we have this yellow moving part. I have no idea what it is, but it can move. And coming further down, we have this much of an elbow bend. And the forelimb can extend this much. As for movement of the paws, it can dorsiflect this far and extend this much. The joint on the paws allows it to have side to side pivot. And all the claws are attached separately, so each claw could move side to side independently. And the range of motion they have are pretty extreme. And pretty pointy. But they're claws, so I guess being pointy is good. Time to take a look at the main weapon unit for the Fang Tiger. I'm not sure what this large yellow piece is called, but it can open up revealing the fangs, as well as showing off the nice surface level details inside here. And from a frontal view, you can see the yellow piece canopy can open up 90 degrees. The whole weapon unit sits on top of a double hinge joint that is surprisingly loose, which is weird because it's the exact same one the LiQWYD has, and that thing is not loose at all. And yes, I have reassembled this a couple times actually, and it's still loose. But overlooking that, just because the weapon unit is attached to a peg, it's able to do a 360. Just gonna disassemble the backpack unit to make this easier. These yellow side panels can be extended back, giving some separation in between the yellow parts. Not entirely sure what this is for, but it's pretty cool. This little mohawk thingy is able to move back and forth. And finally, we come to the actual weapons, the twin fangs. Pretty savage looking design, and there's 2 points in the blade that allows it to extend very slightly. I find this feature pretty silly though, because it just doesn't extend that much. Moving on, the twin fangs can rotate, and they are able to flip all the way back to be stored. That's it for the weapon unit. Now we can take a look at the lower half. Oh, yep, there goes this part. This piece always falls off. And here on the other side is what it's supposed to look like. I'm assuming it's a thruster unit, but it's able to move up and down. The hind legs are able to internally and externally rotate this far. Easy 360 of the hind legs. Here's the abduction and adduction of it. Full knee extension. Full knee bend. Ankle dorsiflexion. Ankle full extension. Paw bend and paw extension. And the hind leg claws function the exact same way as the front legs. On top of the hips we have this thing. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but the sides are attached on a ball joint, so it's able to move 360, and it could internally and externally rotate slightly. The sharp claw part is also able to move up and down a little bit. And now finally we move to the tail. It's made up of 7 segments, with each segment attached to a peg and a hinge, giving it excellent flexibility, while also allowing each segment to rotate. And at the end of the tail, we have a barb that can move up and down. Not sure how useful that is, but it is there. And I gotta say, it's really fun playing around with the tail. And unlike tails on the other Zoid kits, this one doesn't fall apart. So in terms of articulation, this kit is pretty good. Moving it around and putting it into poses was fairly easy, and that's to be expected, since it shares the inner frame with the LiQWYD. Okay, with articulations out of the way, what extras does this kit come with? Firstly, because it's a Wild Series Zoid, it has a stupid saddle. And if you see the slot over here, it's for the Zoid key. And the Zoid key is very small, try not to lose it. The Zoid key fits fairly well, but don't let that fool you. I lost my LiQWYD's Zoid key, so just letting you know. The saddles are able to attach right over here, just like the LiQWYD's. And next up we are given a painted figure of LiQWYD. LiQWYD comes with 2 heads, the one with the special eye effect thing, and a normal basic head. I don't care about the character at all, but if I had to display it, I would choose this effect eye part thing. And like the LiQWYD, you can sit LiQWYD right on top of the saddle of the Fang Tiger. I find this looks ridiculous, but it's nice that they included a painted figure. And lastly, like LiQWYD, the Fang Tiger also has a special effect for its eye. It is identical to the LiQWYD's, and it fits the exact same way, though it's significantly more loose. Overall, not too much extras, It's too bad the eye effect is identical to the LiQWYDs, but it does look really nice on the Fang Tiger. Actually, now that I think about it, all the extras are pretty much identical to the LiQWYD, except the pilot, of course. Man, this is just looking like a carbon copy of the LiQWYD, just with different armor pieces. And if that's the case, its structural integrity will be the same as the LiQWYD. Yeah, pretty much you can see that the thing's gonna fall apart if you shake it a lot, or if you move it around too much. So just keep that in mind. It's gonna fall apart like the LiQWYD. And though it's pretty easy to work with, sooner or later something will come off. I guess the only saving grace is it's pretty easy to put back together. And compared to older HMMs, it's much more bearable. And that concludes the shake test. On to size comparison. First up, we got the entry grade Arctic 72, real grade new Gundam, a fellow Zoid in the high-end master model Genobreaker, Raven version, master grade Zaku 2.0, DK, Haro, Doraemon, Egbert, and the floating bulb. As for shelf presence, it looks pretty good next to the LiQWYD, the yellow is eye-catching, and the weapons definitely give it a presence. And with all that being said, we come to the end of the video, and we have the question, should you buy this kit? Look, it might be a recently released kit, but it's nothing new. It's pretty much the same as the LiQWYD. The exterior and the weapons definitely give it a different look, but the inner frame is pretty much like 90% the LiQWYDs. Nothing difficult, nothing new. But because it shares the inner frame with the LiQWYD, it suffers the exact same problems the LiQWYD has, mainly with the loose body attachment and the weapon attachment, which is weird because this is the exact same one as the LiQWYD, but that one's not loose. This one is. Additionally, these back vent pieces for the legs are hella annoying and they come off really friggin' easily. So like everything else, this is based on personal preference. The Fang Tiger has its issues, it's not perfect, but at least it's not a hand grenade. And in model kit form, it looks pretty cool. Not a bad kit, but it could definitely be better. And if you're a beginner builder and want to pick up this kit, go ahead, it's pretty easy to build. And if I had to choose between the Fang Tiger and the LiQWYD, on which I prefer more, I would choose the Fang Tiger, just because I like saber-toothed cats more. Hey, thanks for watching my video. I hope you like it. I enjoy making it. Let me know what you think. Still not a fan of the Zoids Wild anime, but I love their Zoid designs. And with the way Kotobukiya is pumping out the HMM Zoids, we're looking at a good year of Zoid model kits. And I'll be right here reviewing all of them. Thanks again for watching my video. Take care. Bye.